Welcome back to the Metroplus show. Our personality of the week is Patricia Thomas. Patricia is the recipient of the Best Woman Entrepreneur Award by Ficky Flo for the tremendous grit she had shown in the face of adversity. Her rise to fame is a story that we read in books, that we watch in films, that we may even at times find hard to believe because they speak of such superhuman determination. Here is Patricia's story of success. 40 years ago, Patricia Thomas was just another moderately ambitious student at Queen Mary's College, a girl who had not known any troubles under the protection of her parents, a foodie whose only problem was the food in the college canteen that used to drive her to the restaurant nearby. It was in this restaurant that she met Narayanan, the man who would directly and indirectly script the rest of her life.
Owner of that restaurant, and I used to frequent that place because my college canteen used to be very crowded, and I used to like the food here. And basically, as I was a foodie myself, I would love to go there because I was able to, I had easy access to the kitchen, and I would always sit there to watch how the fluffy chola puris were done and the cutlets were made. And every day when I started going there, I met with this person. He was the boss there, and slowly I started falling in love with him.
Once in love, Patricia's Mills and Boon story had begun, or so she thought. The confession of love by Narayanan was soon followed by a proposal to exchange the marital vows, and accepted, irrespective of the caste differences and regardless of the age gap of 13 years. The love-struck couple secretly got married at the registrar's office under the agreement that Patricia would stay at her house until she finishes her degree. The agreement worked fine until
he started insisting that I declare that we got married to my parents, and the understanding was that I was not going to do that immediately, but then I was forced to do it. So I had to tell my parents, and even though my parents were not okay with it, they had to accept it, and we were socially married at a church in Putsvakam. And after the marriage was over, my father said that was all with me. I mean, he said he was done with me.
abandoned by her father and wedded to adversity, young Patricia shifted to her husband's house. Assuming the worst is over, Patricia braced herself for a new life to begin, only to wake up to the ugly side of her alcoholic and substance-abusing better half. The situation was worsened further with two realizations: that she was pregnant and that they had no money to survive. Where was her Mills and Boon story?
It wasn't a Mills and Boon story at all. It was rather very tough. Even before I could realize what was happening, I found myself pregnant, and I was not in a position to make both ends meet. So I had to run back to my mother and confess to her what was happening. And she accepted me with her arms wide open. And from then on till my delivery, she was there to take care of me. I was just thinking, I didn't know what I was doing. But then after my son was born, it dawned on me that I have to make a living for myself as well as my son. And that was the time I started doing pickles and squashes and jams from my house. And I was trying to sell it, and I was making a little bit of money. But then I was thinking in how to expand my business, because I knew by then I had decided this is going to be my future. And that was the time when I got an opportunity to run a kiosk at the marina.
But opening a kiosk on the stretch of marina was no child's play for a woman in her 20s. Carrying a toddler in her arms and refusing to resign to fate, Patricia walked up and down the stairs of the secretariat for 1 year to get permission. Finally, the permission was given, the kiosk was opened, and 1 cup of coffee was sold on the first day. And since then, there has been no looking back.
I had a small kiosk, and this was going to be my bread and butter. I had to put everything, my heart and soul into it. And every day I went with new hopes. I learned new techniques. I was trying to develop my business every day from there, because this was going to be my teaching or learning experience. As I was a first-line entrepreneur, I learned everything. Today, whatever I am, the credit goes to my marina kiosk because I have graduated from that place and I hold an MBA from there. Even though it was very small, I adored it as though I owned a 5-star hotel. And my passion towards satisfying my customers who come there, talking to them, negotiating, everything I happened to learn from there. And from there on, I moved to other institutional catering and into a full-time hotelier. Today, I run about 10 to 12 of these counters, which are called Sandeepa.
Sandeepa derives its name from the name of Patricia's daughter, Pradeepa Sandra. Just when it seemed that the stars were finally smiling upon Patricia and her children, Pradeepa met with a car accident that took her life, an incident that hurts Patricia more than her own morbid past.
I have this ambulance stationed at Achirapakkam. This is the place where the accident took place. And I have this ambulance running here because I wanted to serve for people who are living as well as not living. Why I am so harsh on that is, my children were lying on the road for more than 2.5 hours. An ambulance had come there and they had said that they will not carry dead people. And I was really astonished how an ambulance driver can even say that people were not alive. And my children were brought in a boot of taxis after about 2.5 hours from the time the accident took place. So my only intention was to have an ambulance in that spot to help people if they have met with the accident, or even if they are no more, to be taken them with respect to the nearby hospital at least.
Despite the trials and tribulations that Patricia has faced in her past, today she forges on, stronger than ever. The total sales of her chain of 14 Sandeepa restaurants across Chennai averages at 2 lakh rupees a day, a true measure of her success, the fruit of her unwavering determination and strength. Moving on, someone whose unwavering love for this city has seen him write columns and books for the past many decades is S. Muthiah. I'm sure the moment I mentioned that name, Madras Miscellany and Madras Musings came to your mind. So this week, the Metroplus team rushed to his house to find out the story behind the old man who has been telling us stories of our Madras. S. Muthiah has been in the field of journalism for over 6 decades now. We know him well for his crisp recounts of history in Madras Miscellany and Madras Musings. What we all would want to know is, how did this long journey begin?
I was nearly 20 years a journalist in Sri Lanka, and shortly after returning from Sri Lanka to Madras, I didn't get back into journalism, but I taught journalism for many years. My focus on teaching in journalism was that people are much more interested in their local areas than the wider country or the rest of the world.
After decades of being a prolific writer, it is fascinating what goes into Muthiah's research. He is in the habit of collecting any relevant article on the history of Madras, and even at 80, he believes he is still learning.
Madras Miscellany owes a lot to early research I did in the 1970s and 80s, when I used to travel to England quite often, and was also worked in the archives here as well as the British Library. And over the years collected a lot of material which I thought I will use someday in some kind of book or other. So there's plenty of material collected over that. Subsequently, virtually every book that has been written on Madras in some form or another I've got collected or something like that, and I've got 3 rooms full of books around the place here.
Another little known fact about him is that he works not on a computer or with a pen and paper, but on his 50-year-old typewriter. No matter where the musics come from, his writing skill means that even today he gets an average of 3 calls a day related to his articles.
ever since last 7 or 8 years, there's been a tremendous contribution. There's 15, 20 letters every week, or telephone calls, or email messages or something. How they get my email or how they get my telephone number, I have no idea, but they seem to be able to contact me. And they're either providing additional information to anything that I have published, which I might not have even been aware of. They're correcting me where necessary. And one of the biggest successes, I think, of the column is in both these counts, this question of when the postman knocked, which is what the response from readers come to. In addition to that, there is people who ask questions. It's now become a case of where they want information on some subject or another.
True enough, the interactiveness of the column is what's made it so popular. And better news for the readers is that now, upon the completion of a decade of Madras Miscellany, we will soon have a book on it.
At the end of the day, Madras Miscellany now, the book which is going to be called the Madras Miscellany, a decade of people, places and potpourri, and it will come out at the end of this month. It's divided into these three categories. Contains about 2/3 of the material over the last 10 years that we have used.
The extensive library at his house and his collection of absolutely anything written about Madras is a sight in itself. What is more fascinating is how so many tiny details are clearly etched in his memories. It's always fascinating to listen to someone's fond memories, isn't it? We take a break. When we come back, Memories of Madras.